David Fincher is one of the most well-regarded working filmmakers today, and in the running for top-rated Hollywood Davids. His boxing match with Lynch when? Sorry Schwimmer, you're not in the running. Fincher has become a beloved figure in the film, especially film bro communities. Between his unique visuals and the on-set stories of him doing up to 100 takes to get all of the exact things he wants for his film perfectly. Film fans love an auteur, and David Fincher definitely qualifies. But even with all of his fans, his critical acclaim, his awards, he still has a laundry list of unmade films, be it from the project never moving forward at all, being left in what's called development hell, or Fincher leaving the project for whatever reason of his own. The man has plenty of works that he never got a chance to do, but we do have records of many of them, and I want to go over them today.
I think people are perverts. I've maintained that. That's the foundation of my career.
Let's do this. Alright internet, for a video like this, I want to get the obvious ones out of the way, the sequels. Mindhunter was meant to have a third season, at least. In February of this year, Fincher talked about it in a Forbes interview, and how Netflix found that the show was too expensive for the amount of views it was getting. And the internet wept, because Mindhunter was dope as hell. Before that, there were the Girl with a Dragon Tattoo sequels. He did the first one back in 2011, with plans of also doing the other two Stieg Larsson novels as well. The plan was to produce them together, filming back to back, a move I think would be a great idea for more adaptations. It worked great for Lord of the Rings. It didn't work out that way though. Steve Zaillian, who adapted Dragon Tattoo, started working on the script for The Girl Who Played with Fire in 2012, with a release date announced for 2013. We didn't get that movie though, but there was a rewrite to the script done at some point by Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven. Fincher thought even with the delays, the film would still get made, but in November 2015, it was announced that the studio would be adapting another book from the Millennium series called Girl with the Spider's Web without any of the creative team, soft rebooting what they hoped to be a solid franchise for them. That film did come out in 2018, and even with about half the budget of Fincher's original Tattoo, made so much less at the box office, you really gotta ask why they did this at all. Big oops on their part. So one of the most interesting films here, if you ask me, are the ones Fincher was attached to, but ended up getting made by somebody else. This includes the original Blade from '98. Screenwriter David S. Goyer, in an interview about Blade Trinity, said Fincher even helped develop the original film's script. And then of course there was Star Wars Episode 7.
Say what?
Yeah, that's right. Kathleen Kennedy met with him about it, but he turned it down, not wanting to do franchise filmmaking. Not surprising, being that he has a very unique style that I imagine wouldn't fly when making something like a Star Wars for Disney. Though trivia fans would have loved if he did this, since he did work on Return of the Jedi early in his career. He was also connected to Catch Me If You Can for a while, before doing Panic Room instead. Honestly, a solid choice if you ask me, because I don't think his personal style and tone would have worked with Frank Abagnale's story as well, and Panic Room is a low-key sleeper hit from his filmography. He was also one of the early directors approached to Spider-Man before they settled on working with Sam Raimi. He apparently wanted to cover the backstory in an extended music video style title sequence that would have run for about 10 minutes. Makes sense because he does come from a background in music video filmmaking. He also wanted to cover the death of Gwen Stacy, later done in the Amazing Spider-Man films, that Fincher was considered for but never offered. Some of the less well-documented films he almost directed include Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Stay, and Jobs. Not Steve Jobs with Ashton Kutcher, but Jobs with Fassbender. Feels worth mentioning. I can hear you typing, and yes, I know, I mixed them up. I know I mixed them up. I put the graphics on screen. Also, saying Jobs, real weird in the mouth. Fincher also worked on a film called Chef that would have starred Keanu Reeves in the early 2000s. That one died for a while before becoming the 2015 film Burnt, starring Bradley Cooper. Cooper also starred in a failed Kitchen Confidential TV show, and before that happened, Fincher was working on an adaptation of that for the big screen that was going to be called Seared. That's another one for the big trivia heads! Yeah! The funniest film David Fincher almost worked on was Lords of Dogtown. Not because it was an odder fit than some of the other projects we've mentioned, but because he was replacing original film director Fred Durst. Seriously, I'll put the headline on screen. From Limp Bizkit. Fucking wild. How is he the second choice after Fred Durst? Utopia was one of 2 projects Fincher was working on with Gillian Flynn after the success of their collaboration on Gone Girl. This was an adaptation of the UK series for HBO that was cancelled over budget issues. It later got made without Fincher, and apparently it sucks. I've never seen either version of Utopia, though I heard the first one is quite good, and I would consider watching both for a video. Let me know if you want me to. Mission Impossible 3 was on the table. Apparently Tom Cruise specifically wanted Fincher for what he was looking to be a more violent entry, but it was turned down. Fincher didn't want to do a third entry in the series, an experience he must have learned from his Alien film. He helped writer Scott Frank develop the film The Lookout. That almost didn't get made after he left because DreamWorks dropped it, but ended up getting directed by Frank himself, with a lot of the original Fincher ideas still intact when Miramax eventually picked it up. Fincher was set to adapt the novel The Black Dahlia as a miniseries before going on to do Zodiac instead, with Brian De Palma directing the film version that we got instead. The miniseries had Tom Cruise attached because almost working together seems to be his and Fincher's thing. De Palma's version was not well liked, poorly compared to LA Confidential, another adaptation of a James Ellroy novel. Now, I don't want to assume that Fincher would have done a better job, but it is one of the unmade films that makes me wonder the most. Since detective mystery work is kind of the stuff that Fincher has historically always nailed. But if he did it, I would have wanted to see it with the film star Josh Hartnett instead of Tom Cruise. That's me. Okay. This is the last of these made by another director's entries, and oddly enough, it is the oldest film on the list. Why did you structure it like this? We have the Madonna documentary from 1991, Truth or Dare, or In Bed with Madonna, depends on where in the world you watched it. Fincher had directed several of Madonna's music videos at the time, but they had a falling out sometime between his initially being asked to work on it and the actual documentary's production. The final product was, for a long time, the highest grossing documentary of all time, and that must have been wild for director Alec Keshian, who wasn't even 30 at the time. So next up we've got...
Greg, can you help me with something?
I'm sorry, I'm still in the middle of recording. I mean, if you need me to, I can fill in for you. Oh, sure, awesome, thanks. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this. So next up we have adaptations and remakes. These are a big part not only of Fincher's filmography, but cinema as a whole. So it makes sense that there's plenty that he has not gotten a chance to make. And that's not including the ones we've already mentioned. There's more, so many more, and here they are. Let's go, getting into it. This is a transition into the next section. This is hard. First up, there's Passengers, no relation to the J. Law Pratt movie from a few years back. This one is based on Robert Silverberg's short story. He was attached from 2000, but by 2002, Fincher had moved on to a producer role, and it seems to have lost steam from there. One I think sounded really cool was an adaptation of a book called Chemical Pink. Written by Katie Arnaldi, it follows an aspiring female bodybuilder and her messed up relationship with a crazy rich man. The script was going to be written by Chuck Palahniuk. It sounds really intriguing. I think Fincher could have done something really interesting here. Jonas Åkerlund, a director who oddly enough has also done Madonna music videos, was attached after Fincher left, but it seems like everything else in this section, it fizzled out. I think the most well-known thing here might be Heavy Metal, a remake of the 1981 film. He built up an insane list of people who are going to be involved with it, in different roles, but it seems like they lost the rights and Robert Rodriguez has them now. So we'll see. Another high-profile project was 2000 Leagues Under the Sea. He left because Disney wanted Chris Hemsworth for the lead and Fincher wanted Channing Tatum. I don't know who was right here. He had originally offered the role to Brad Pitt, but he had said no. Most interesting to me was getting Scott Z. Burns to write, who's done great work with Steven Soderbergh, like the documentary Contagion and one of my favorite films, Side Effects. So at one point, Fincher was going to adapt Rendezvous with Rama, a film that Denis Villeneuve is now attached to direct. Villeneuve and Fincher were also both developing Cleopatra films for a while, and Fincher's was going to be written by Eric Roth, who also co-wrote Denis Villeneuve's Dune. The pattern recognition part of my brain has been firing so hard learning all this stuff. Okay, internet, I think we need to do a lightning round for a few of these, because some of them have little to no information on them. Let's go. Hardboiled, based on the Frank Miller comic. Torso, based on the Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Andreyko graphic novel. The Automatic Detective, based on the A. Lee Martinez novel. The Reincarnation of Peter Proud, based on the novel by Max Elric. I would like to talk about Black Hole now, please. I would like to talk about Black Hole now, please. One of my lights died. Okay. Anyways. Black Hole is an adaptation of the Charles Byrne graphic novel. Fincher was attached to do this, but dropped out in 2010, then jumping back in 2013, which is how I heard of it, and decided to read it. He didn't stay on long this second time, but I'm kind of okay with this. Now, don't get me wrong, I love David Fincher's work as much as any white guy, but I don't know if he would have been the right fit for this adaptation. Not only because of his visual style, that I think could have bent to meet the style of the book somewhere in the middle, but because I don't know how he would have handled the emotional core of the book, because it is so different from his most sentimental films. It's just a different vibe. That said, I would love to see his version of it if it were to come out, and hope to be proven wrong. I want every film to be great. Rick Famuyiwa is attached to it now, if it ever happens. Nothing in his filmography leans into what Black Hole is, but he is a very versatile director, so I'd be down for it. His 2015 film Dope lives up to the name. Speaking of 2015, it was announced then that Fincher was going to remake Strangers on a Train, working with Ben Affleck and Gillian Flynn, that's the second one I mentioned, since they had just worked so well together on Gone Girl. By that summer, Flynn had said all of them were overcommitted at the time. It seems kind of weird to remake a Hitchcock classic, but I do think with his style and Flynn's writing, Fincher could have made a unique reinterpretation of the original novel. Also, despite the fact that this isn't moving forward, I want to say I was happy that they had changed the title to Strangers, because at one point it was going to be Strangers on a Plane, and that makes it sound like a spoof film. The Zuckers, Keenen Ivory Wayans, David Fincher, the Holy Trinity. Okay, I'm back. Thank you so much for watching. What of these unmade films do you most wish Fincher had made? Did I miss any? World War Z 2, I didn't miss that one, because I'm saying it right now. I got you. I got you. If you want to see me make more videos like this, let me know who you think I should cover in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe if you aren't. I got more videos that you can check out, and until next time, have a good one.